Our next session is going to be a panel discussion on the handouts that were inside of your packet. And these are the resources that we hope you'll be able to use with your parents and or your administration, school, and staff. And so each one of us is going to go through some of the stuff that was in there. And then, of course, we'll take any questions that you should have afterwards. Once again, my name is Harvey Richards, and I'm going to go over the first stuff that was in your packet. Probably the most important one, the tan sheet. This is available on the website. This is our sports medicine page. We no longer have a hardbound copy of the sports medicine manual. We just actually keep up to date, along with my assistant who is here today helping us outside, Diane Sapp. We just keep this up to date along with the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee to make sure that each year all of these things are up to date and you're using them as well as you possibly can. We just got through passing at our December meeting all of these forms and making sure that they were, I guess as you'd say, up to snuff. Everything you need is here as far as sports-related information with the MSHA activities. It is also available to all of our youth sports and for all of them to use also. If we have someone that's here from like Little League or Pee Wee or whatever, and they want to call us up and I can put them in touch where we can get this, we can actually get the material to them and everything else. Just to make you a little bit aware, in legislation right now, the brain injury law that went into effect 4 years ago, House Bill 300, had to do only with interscholastic sports 7 through 12. It is now being proposed by Representative Fitzwater that it be expanded from, you might as well just say, K through 18 years old. So it's going to encompass all youth sports from Pee Wee to Little League to youth soccer to whatever, and they will have to be able to document and follow the same procedures and protocols that we have in place for our high schools and junior highs right now. We think this is a big step. What it will probably lead to is probably some kind of partnership between our office and maybe the Department of Senior Services to come up with a website that will allow everything to be checked and looked at and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be working on that in the future. The National Federation does put out a sports medicine manual. It is now going to be online also, so there will no longer be a hard copy of that. Our Sports Advisory Committee will get it. We also will have some available, but of course that will be at a cost, but that information will be out there. The second sheet that we have is the return to play form, and this is a form that by the way, I'll have to get with Maureen. This is the last form. This is not our new form. We have a new form that has been approved by our board and by our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, and it's actually only 1 page long. And it is, if you go to our sports website, our sports medicine website, it is on there currently right now. This form was so well perceived last year in New York that we now have about 10 or 15 states that are using our form and putting it into place. One of the things on that is that if your school district is saying that you're using the MSHA form, one of the lines in that form says that you must have a procedure in place for how to do protocol for concussions. So don't just say you're using our form. Make sure you've put your procedure in place and make sure that that's there. So, but that is available for everyone to use, and we would refer even our medical people. If a doctor calls me or whatever and says, what are you guys doing? We refer them to that form so that they understand what's going on. So the return to play form is there. We are working closely right now with Dr. Halstead, who is in the back of the room, who will be speaking later on today, at looking at return to learn and getting that information out to our counselors and our administration so they can also realize that there's another side to just not missing sports and activities, but there will also be some downtime in school. So we make sure that that's available to you. And then the last thing, the Know Your ABCs about concussions, the whole pamphlet is in there. That can be downloaded from our website. It can also be downloaded from the CDC, and when it is updated, we make sure that it's updated on our website, and that is the information that you can hand out to your parents at the parent-teachers meetings, or you can make available to them through your internet or some other form that you would have. So that's the information from the MSHA side of it. We keep that up to date as much as we possibly can, and like I said, it's reviewed annually by our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee.
Okay. Hi. My name's Kelly Hopkins. I'm with the Missouri School Boards Association, and you have a handout on our Center for Education Safety. I'm not with the Center for Education Safety. I'm actually an attorney and I write board policy. So I don't think I'm here to talk to you about safety as much as I am about the procedures that Harvey was just referring to previously. I do encourage you, if you have questions, to contact our Center for Education Safety. As an association, the Missouri School Boards Association is dedicated to helping public schools and school boards succeed. So anything related to helping schools succeed, we think falls within our mission statement, and so we welcome your questions. And if there are things that the folks at the Center for Education Safety can do for you, do not hesitate to contact them. Trust me, they want to help. In fact, I kind of have to say, guys, slow down a little bit. They are doing so much. That's just a wonderful thing. But I'm going to talk about the policy side, and I think that's probably what Ray's here about too. I'm going to talk a little bit about the policy side of things. Harvey just told you you needed a procedure in place. It wasn't enough to say, we're just using your form. You had to have something in place. In our perspective, I write a lot of board policy. I read a lot of board policy. My life is dull. We don't write board policy about protocols for concussions. That's not a Board of Education's job. Boards pass policy. They are a governance entity. We don't want them meddling in setting up. Anybody here a school board member by any chance? I was hoping I'd have one. Say, do you really want to be the one responsible? Oh, good. Well, I know you are. Do you want to be responsible for setting up a protocol for? Well, yeah, huh? And because we want the experts to handle that. So that becomes a non-issue for boards. What we also produce are administrative procedures. Administrative procedures are documents that implement what the board has said. So the board in a policy says, our children will be safe. Our student athletes will be safe. We will do everything the law requires. We will do everything, if it's applicable, that Missouri State High School Activities Association requires. In response to that, we created 2 procedures. One of them, and we do alphabet soup on our things, but one of them is IGD. I call that Igloo Girl Dog, AP2, which essentially says that we will meet all requirements of MSHSAA, and we talk about that on an annual basis, we will provide the information about concussions and brain injuries to each student participating in these activities, along with a form acknowledging the receipt of the information. The form must be returned, and it goes into a little bit of detail there. The other one is KB, as in Kelly, bad, AP1, and that again is a statement of what our obligation is to notify the public about our stance and what's expected and what we do for our student athletes. Now, you will notice we don't have a form. Well, the reason we don't have a form is we studied the form. Now, I needed to study the new one now that there's one out. And if somebody else has already done a really good job of building one, we don't. That's just, extra effort for no purpose. So we, by reference, are just saying use this form. We didn't create one on our own. Sometimes we create them on their own when we don't like the ones that are produced by another entity, but we didn't feel the need in this case. A protocol is not an administrative procedure. It is a very specific, expert-driven series of steps that will be taken. I can't write one of those. Maybe some of you can. I can't write one of those. So if you need assistance writing these, we will do our best to help you, but we're going to have to seek outside assistance in doing so that we get the medical expertise involved in this. That's from the Missouri School Boards Association. Who's next?
I am.
Okay, there's Ray.
Hi, I'm Ray Patrick. I'm the Executive Director of Missouri Association of Rural Education, and as Kelly alluded to, I'm also a school board member of school district, and I'm on an ambulance board, so this topic is near and dear to my heart. The topic that I'm supposed to talk about is resources available for rural schools, and I hate to disappoint you today, but there's not a whole lot of resources out there for rural schools specific. But I do also want to kind of mention policy. We support the MCE policies, which stands for Missouri Consultants for Education, and I think the latest count, there's around 200 school districts out there that use those policies. I sent that to be handed out, but it evidently got lost in cyberspace, so I do have some copies if you are interested. But it's a very simple, informative, direct policy. It basically says any district athlete suspected of sustaining a concussion or brain injury must be removed from practice and competition immediately and may not participate in contact athletic practice or competition for at least 24 hours. Point 2, athletes suspected of sustaining concussion or brain injury will not be permitted to return to contact practice or competition until being evaluated by a licensed healthcare provider trained in the evaluation and management of concussions and receiving written clearance from the provider to return. This set of policies also, instead of developing a whole new set of forms, they actually recommend using the MSHSAA forms that are available. I mentioned policy because I think if a protocol is going to be written, you basically have to take a look at what your policy is first. Now, as I say, there's not anything really specific out there to rural schools as far as protocols, but I went out online and I've got this many different protocols that I just downloaded. But what I found in looking at those protocols, there's some specific key points, key words that districts need to think about looking at in the development of their protocols. One is a commitment to implement strategies that will reduce the risk of injuries in a school setting. A second point is the procedure and treatment plan should be developed by your district medical director. I'm not sure how many rural districts out there have medical directors, but hopefully if you don't, you'll be able to work with someone in helping to develop these. And that's looking for signs of concussion and symptoms of concussion. Point 3 is procedure to ensure that school nurses, athletic trainers, physical education teachers, everybody receives the necessary training in dealing with concussion. A fourth one is a coordinated communication plan among appropriate staff. You have a football player injured on Friday night at a football game, you definitely want to have a plan in place as to who's going to need to know on Monday morning that this student may be back in school, had a concussion, things that they need to be looking for in identifying whether things should get worse. And then finally, a procedure in place that you periodically review your concussion plan, policy, protocol, etc. I always suggest that this can be part of your annual review of your athletic handbook or even student handbook. I did, however, a handout that they just handed out a little bit ago was something that I did find online, and it's called Sample High School Athletic Department Protocol and Procedures for Management of Sports-Related Concussions, and I found that to be real interesting, so you at least got a free handout from me today that you can take back and take a look at. Number 4.
Good morning. My name is Dean Anderson, and I'm currently coordinator of the State's Traumatic Brain Injury Program grant. We are underneath the Adult Brain Injury Program at the Department of Health and Senior Services down at Jeff City. And our grant really strives to improve access to comprehensive, multidisciplinary, coordinated, and easily accessible systems to support children, youth, and adults at the highest risk for traumatic brain injury. We work focus primarily on some high-risk populations, children 0 to 5 years of age, military members and their families, incarcerated individuals, and then last but not least, athletes that are 6 to 19 years of age. We see these as high-risk populations, and so we try to do educational outreach across the state, both to reduce the prevalence of TBI in these high-risk populations, as well as to provide resources to them. Underneath the Adult Brain Injury Program, excuse me, we work to provide resources primarily for folks between the ages of 21 and 65 who are living with a traumatic brain injury. The adult brain injury program provides two primary services: service coordination and rehabilitation services. Service coordination is provided to all ABI program participants regardless of their financial status, and these include things like evaluation and assessment of needs, development with regular evaluation and upgrades of service plans, assistance in locating and accessing resources such as medical care, housing, and counseling, and information about education and advocacy. And those are some of the things that we provide as service coordinators. For folks who meet our financial eligibility, we also provide rehabilitation services. Some of these services include things like neuropsychological evaluation and consultation, adjustment counseling, transitional home and community support training, pre-vocational and pre-educational training, supported employment along with follow-up, those type of things, and helping folks reassimilate back into mainstream if their traumatic brain injury has caused them to have to deal with those kind of disabilities. We work pretty close with the Brain Injury Association of Missouri. And in your packet, you'll see that there's a little flyer that looks a little like this. I don't know if you can see it from way out there. But this flyer is kind of just outlining some of the various services and resources that the Missouri Brain Injury Association has. They provide a lot of education in a variety of different aspects. So if you just kind of look over it, I could sit here and read through some of those, but it's probably easier for you to just look at them. And I would encourage you to take advantage of these educational opportunities. Many of them are online and free of charge. And really there to help you all do a better job of protecting the health of the folks that, the students that you're overlooking in your schools. So I'd encourage you to look at those. And then one other resource that's in your packet that I'd also encourage you to take a good look at is this little green booklet, and it's concussion management. This little booklet is really a nice little tool in a condensed version of how to provide education, sensible strategies for coping with TBI, prevention, recognition, management, recovery, prognosis. It's all in there. And I think it's just a wonderful little tool. It's a valuable resource. It's right there in your booklet. So thank you to the Missouri Brain Injury Association for helping supply these to everybody. And if you have questions, consult us at the Missouri Brain Injury Program at the state, and the Missouri Brain Injury Association of Missouri.
Right. The last thing in the packet, if we remember from Dr. Tarbox's presentation, he was talking about the SCAT-2, and we moved to the SCAT-3. That's the last thing in the packet there. The SCAT-3 is an assessment tool for concussions. Over lunch, we're going to have a video that's going to show how to administer that. So I'm not going to get into it too much on that aspect. It's a very difficult form to find. If you put SCAT-3 into Google, it pops up. So it's really it's not hard to find at all. You put SCAT-3 in, this is what's going to pop up on there. So it's a relatively easy form to find. The big thing that I want to kind of get out is that there is no tool to diagnose a concussion on the sideline. I'm going to say it again. There is no tool that can diagnose a concussion on the sideline. Okay? There is nothing there. This is a really good tool to help us with the overall assessment of a concussion and the management plan. Big thing with this is you need to be able to have somebody that can interpret the information as well, because you can give it, but being able to interpret it and how it relates to each individual student athlete. But it's a very good tool, and we'll have a video a little bit later to show how to administer it, so you guys have a little bit better idea with that.
Need to mention something because of what Josh just said. No tool that can diagnose a concussion on the sideline. Yet legislation is being introduced Thursday that you will use a tool on the sideline to determine whether or not they have a concussion, and you will remove that athlete because of such. All right? We are opposing it. So are some of the other groups that are sitting here with us today, but it is out there. All right? I don't know if the representative thinks that it's a feel-good piece of legislation or whatever, but he's trying to tack it on to our House Bill 300 that we already have in place for youth injury and concussion law. And so it will be out there. We'll see where it goes. They claim that they're not going to try and push it. We'll just have to wait and see, because as I've told you earlier, Representative Fitzwater is also attaching to our current law that we expand it to the youth. And we're okay with that, okay? But we don't want them coming in and saying that you will use this tool or a tool, and that will determine whether or not that takes place. We believe that your school has to have a policy and a procedure in place, and you follow it, okay? And that takes many things, not just the one tool that would be on the sideline, okay? We'll open this up for any discussion or any questions that you may have. One of the things that I forgot to mention when we were sitting there was, one of the things on our website is anyone can save a life. That has been sent to every school district. If you are sitting here and you're at a school district and you haven't heard about that, find out from your administration where it is. We sent the whole packet, DVD, and all the information with it. That will help you set up not only your emergency action plan, but your policies and your procedures, I should say, in case you have an emergency. So any questions that you should have. Thank you very much.